That's a brief overview of the topics we're going to hit today. Thank you for hitting the record button, Jen. All right. OSHA vaccination mandates. Last month, Biden administration and really the Supreme Court struck down that emergency standard. So the bottom line is employers are now back in the driving seat. They can decide how they want to handle this. It's not being mandated by OSHA. So like I said, every employer can make their decision. However, just to be aware, there are still certain state and federal contractor guidelines in place that you should be aware of. If you are working on state and federal projects, be sure to do your research. And then, as always, customers still do reserve the right to demand whatever they want. That could be vaccine cards at the door. That could be vaccinated people only. Us personally, we're seeing all sorts of different things from different customers. So please be aware. But I think in general, our different contractors are sighing a breath of relief that they don't have to force some of these different things. I'll jump over to update on apprenticeship hiring. As you know, we talked about it a couple times. We have a working group. We have 10 people. CHCC it takes one of those 10 spots. The goal of this committee, it's a subcommittee of the general law legislative team or group. And the goal is for us to attempt to get on the same page with what our apprenticeship ratio requirements should be. Our goal with the merit shops is to get a 1-to-1 apprenticeship to hiring ratio and a more accountable, contractor-friendly process. That's what we're pushing for. We meet, we've been meeting on a monthly basis. And as we prepare for this legislative session, you're going to see more and more information come out. So we're really just getting ramped up there. We put together, just so you know, a reminder, if you live in any of these towns, Hamden, Milford, Orange, Woodbridge, West Haven, Trumbull, Canton, Simsbury, Bloomfield, Hartford, if you live in these cities or your business is in these cities or towns, you should really be reaching out to whatever one of your representatives is in your area. These are the primary lawmakers that influence the apprenticeship ratio here in Connecticut. It's really handled by the General Law Committee. So send me a quick note or an email if you do live in these towns or work in these towns, and let's continue to put pressure on them regarding this ratio issue. These are the key decision makers. We did issue a year-end report. It's a joint report between the merit shop and the union shop. Anybody wants a copy of it, shoot me or Jen a quick email, and I'll be happy to provide you a copy of it. The so what of that report is we are agreeing to disagree. We have submitted several proposals on really pushing additional apprentices here in the state. They say that it is not needed, it's not wanted. Their major reason for continuing to push back on our request for apprentices is they have two major statements. One is that the majority of contractors, HVAC contractors in Connecticut, don't actually register as many apprentices as they can. So they claim that they pull a roster of a bunch of different HVAC contractors in Connecticut, and they say, well, you don't even use as many as you have. A lot of contractors have one or not nearly as many. So why do we need additional apprentices? And the second is they look at the number of ratio relief applications. And they say, well, if ratio truly was a problem, then you would be applying for relief. We have a whole process for applying for you to get around the ratio requirement. If apprentices were really needed in Connecticut, then we would have lots of applications, which we do not have. So I understand that we have had lots of complaints from our membership here at CHCC about the ratio relief process. I will say this, the best way you can help this issue is to apply for ratio relief. It's not a very complicated application. In fact, Jen and us, the members here at CHCC, will help you if you have any questions. Our big ask is that when you apply, that you let us know. CHCC know that you applied for ratio relief, because we as a collective group need to hold everyone else accountable for that process. One of the big things we're fighting for is clear transparency. If you get rejected, we definitely need to know that. If somebody gives you an ambiguous response, well, you asked for 3, I'm going to give you 1. We need to know that too. We need all the ammunition we can get to fight for the ratio change here. So this is one of the biggest things that we, as a association, we have to work together on, and we have to continue to push. We are also working for additional to one of the other things we're pushing as a committee is to make that process even easier than it is today. It's not super complicated today. We're trying to make it even easier and more transparent. So we'll continue to give updates as we fight this fight. There you go. There's a link to the ratio relief application if you need it. I'm going to continue going. The legislative session opened this past Wednesday. I know all of you probably very riveted and carefully tracked the legislative calendar and agenda. I know I didn't. That's not true. I did not actively track this up until I was put responsible for it. So just so you know, this is we call a short legislative session. And as you can see from my typo, great. What that should actually say was with no budget. They call this a short session. It runs from last Wednesday to May the 4th. And what a short session really means for us is that they limit the number of topics that can be brought, and it's just that they allow for less new topics to be pitched. Some things that we're tracking, indoor air quality in schools. The governor, is I guess now starting to talk about significant funding, maybe $90 million in state funding for mechanical upgrades. Obviously, this is a business opportunity for our association. You should be on the lookout for it, and we're hoping that this is a good thing for our association. Obviously, we're in favor of apprenticeship tax credit. One of the new laws that are being pushed, I guess right now, the apprenticeship tax credit is really only for C Corps, but there is a push to make that eligible for pass-through companies. I think it's around $4,000 tax credit per apprentice. You should definitely make sure you're working with your accountants that you're eligible for that. And obviously, we are in support of any tax credits. Particularly, we know a lot of our members are pass-through entities. So this is something we'll continue to push and support. We'll give updates as that moves through, but that's a bill that I guess is making its way through the House right now. And then also we have this thing called a tax surplus. That's great. We're excited to see that. One of the things that the governor's considering is that proposing a motor vehicle tax cap, and that includes commercial vehicles. So this also could be a benefit to our members. Just to, if you're having conversations with your lawmakers, these are a few things you should work into the conversation and say, hey, these are great for us. You need to push that. So, get to know them and talk about these issues. We're trying to make it really easy for you to have a cheat sheet here. Other things that we're tracking. We always are forced to play defense. In fact, unfortunately, we play defense more than we play offense on many of these issues, with it being a very slanted state house. There are further issues, further efforts to make even more restrictions to apprentices. We're trying to add apprentices, and there are efforts to even further restrict it still that we're fighting against. There is an effort right now to strengthen the priority recall of laid off workers, where they want to try to write into law that when we lay off workers, that we have to hire the people who were laid off first before you can hire other people. Clearly, it's not something that we want, and we're going to continue to actively fight against. There's also a push right now to regulate and limit on-call scheduling practices. So to put some, there's claims of abuse of employees with egregious on-call policies, and they're looking to start to regulate that. That's another area that could have a significant impact on our businesses that we are trying to track and are actively, watching out for. There's always the threat of new employer mandates. In fact, I'd say that they're likely. So over the past week, I asked the question, what is an employer mandate? I'm not sure I know what that means. So let me give you a few examples of things that have passed. Paid FMLA, additional harassment training, mandated paid sick leave. These are recent changes over the past few years that have come to businesses through this labor committee and employer mandates. Obviously, we at the CHCC, we're doing our best to keep an eye on these things, and when possible, fight against them if they make sense to fight against, and also educate all of you on this call on bringing it up as an issue for our businesses. So We're going to continue to monitor them. Our only chance of success really is for you to show up on these 15-minute updates and for you to bring it up to your lawmakers when you have a few minutes with them on the phone. All right. New building codes are coming. There is an open comment period through March 17th. If you have an interest in participating in that process, you should do so. And then you also have a public hearing you could jump in on the 23rd. It's a virtual meeting. Geothermal regulations have been there. We went through the comments period. There have been responses, and they are, likely the new regulations are likely coming. If you're impacted by geothermal, you should do a little digging on that, but that looks like that's moving forward. Other CHCC briefings. We've had good feedback on these 15-minute quick meetings. So we're going to bring a new one. We're going to call it our code briefing series. All right. So this meeting, the one you're on right now, this is mostly targeted towards owners and general business managers. We talk about businesses, threats to the business and things we're working on. This code briefing series is really not for you. This next meeting we're going to host is for your technical people, your employees, your salespeople, anybody who you want to do an update on the code. We're going to talk about lesser known aspects of existing codes. We get asked a lot of code questions. So we're going to talk about a few examples of where you should be aware of things in the code. And then we're also going to be talking about new code changes. The goal is to have a once a month, 15-minute meeting where we get a bunch of people and let's talk about the codes in a bite-sized format. As always, members of CHCC, this is a free service we provide to you. It'll likely be hosted, at least initially, by yours truly. Hank is the brain behind the operation on the code side, but I'm the fast talker, so I'll go quick. And I promise to honor the 15-minute window that we talk about. And with that, it is 9:45. I will shut up and ask if we have any questions. There's a lot to talk about there. I'm going to open it up. Anybody want to unmute? So like we said, we are at the start of this session. All your legislators are going to be crazy busy. They're having bills, they're drinking from a fire hose. It runs from now to May 4th. So it will be a little difficult to get a hold of them. But that's why these monthly meetings are very important. So as bills get proposed, we're keeping an eye on them. You may see emails where we're acting for action. If we get a bill proposed about the ratio, if we really get a good bill about it, we will be asking for your support for that bill, and it might even extend to financial support if we decide that we need to do some active advertising to get the attention of people. I'm not there yet, but just know that at some point that might come where we ask for financial support to advertise for this, but we will not pull that trigger unless we absolutely need to. So
I'm going to go ahead and send out this. Actually, it did go out in the last reminder that everybody received this morning about 9 o'clock. You received a copy of this PowerPoint in the link. If you click on the actual image of one of the slides, the link is in there. I will go ahead and send it out again for everyone to have a copy of this PowerPoint. Additionally, on that topic of fundraising, we are in the process of planning a gubernatorial event. We had one at Stony Creek, the last gubernatorial election. So we are looking to do that again. And we are kicking around the ideas of June. I know June makes for several challenges for my AC friends here. But hopefully, maybe if we tie it up with HVAC Technician Day mid-June, we can get some of you guys out to celebrate and come meet some of the gubernatorial candidates, as well as support the efforts of the government affairs team here. We will be pairing up most likely with the independent electrical contractors, ABC, and some other trade associations.
More details to follow on that. With that, I'll give you back your time. Anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me, to Jen, Andy. We're all here for you. Thank you very much for your time this morning, and I look forward to talking to you. Hopefully, send out the code invite to your people. We'll make it worth their while. We'll make it 15 minutes worth their while. And then we'll talk again in probably about 4 weeks for this update. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Stillman.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.